Hi, this is Lauren, and for our class this semester, the role that I'm playing is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Institutional Diversity. And after reading chapters 6 through 11, the two chapters that I think I'm going to focus on in this particular post are chapters 7 and 8. And chapter 7 specifically, which was the Does Social Networking Enhance or Impede Student Learning, was probably the first chapter that I think resonated the most with me in this particular position. In the beginning of the chapter, the authors really kind of focused on how web kind of went from web 1.0 to web 2.0, and I think social networking has a lot to do with that. And when web has kind of transformed into 2.0, on page 124, they talk about how our students can now really establish more personalized public profiles. The multimedia content is there. Students can link with other users and kind of participate in more media sharing, which obviously hasn't always been a part of the internet as far as this kind of social networking goes. And I know that the main focus of this particular chapter was more on kind of learner participation, creative practices within social media, but they also talked a little bit about how social media can be used for community involvement and formation. And I think as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Institutional Diversity, this particular part of social networking, I think, impacts my department the most, where social networking can be utilized as a way to connect students in that particular community and forming those relationships. So the authors really provided examples of social networking sites as ways for students to overcome isolation. So I saw that as a way for my current students at our kind of model university to overcome isolation, to maybe connect with students who have diverse backgrounds that maybe they might not interact with on a daily basis, to interact with students in the residence halls that they might not know exist and are similar to them in ways that they didn't know if just by passing them in the hallway. So the social networking really kind of allows them to experience those things and also allows them to link up with maybe diverse offices that are run by multicultural programs that maybe they didn't know existed just from walking around campus. So in a sense, for my current students, this social networking, I think, plays a huge role for institutional diversity, not necessarily for student learning, but it is a way for them to learn more about the campus and about the students that are there. I think it's also exciting that, they mentioned obviously how many students have access to social networking and how many faculty members have it. So it's kind of a way for those students to link up with their faculty members and kind of meet the faculty that might be on campus. I also found myself agreeing with them when they mentioned, the authors mentioned on page 136, that social networking sites are interactive spaces where students can produce and decipher cultural meanings, generate info, compose and categorize relationships at their particular institution. So I mentioned current students, how this can be a positive influence, but I also think for prospective students. So with institutional diversity, we're always thinking about how we can recruit, retain, and kind of create that diverse community, but recruitment is a big part of that. So social networking really plays into how we can look at our faculty, our staff, and our students, and how, if they've never set foot on campus, how do they know that our campus is a diverse and welcoming community? And social networking kind of plays a big role in that. If students can go online and see that other students maybe look like them, or they're engaged in activities that maybe they're used to in their home area, I think that was pretty interesting in a way that it maybe enhances the student learning from a perspective side of things. The second issue that probably resonated the most came from Chapter 8, which in a sense might play along with social networking if it's not used in the most positive way. Chapter 8 focused on, the title was Changing University Policy and Changing Student Norms. And the chapter really identifies the importance of policy on a university campus when it comes to protecting the students, faculty, and staff from discrimination. But it also really kind of makes an interesting fact, I guess, or it points to something that shows that policy alone doesn't always address those issues, and it doesn't address how the students kind of experience the policy. And so as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Institutional Diversity, I think a key responsibility for me and for my office is to consider the limitations that this policy presents to our students and to our faculty and staff, and kind of ways to kind of take that policy and make it a little bit more inclusive and incorporate kind of community respect into that policy. One of the items that the author touched on was millennials, and how the students that we see in our college campuses right now are that millennial generation, and how they kind of take a different approach when it comes to their views, their ideas, their opinions when it comes to expressing them on the college campus. So when it comes to diversity and inclusion and making my campus or our campus a welcoming one, those things always play a role in that. And so campus policy doesn't always campus policy is not always going to be the one thing that kind of prohibits the students from kind of expressing those things, and we want students to be able to express their opinions, ideas, and beliefs. But millennials, as the author pointed out, kind of takes a different approach, where they might result in protests or rallies or other ways of expressing their opinions that maybe the university is not used to, and that the policy doesn't really incorporate. So I think one thing after reading this chapter that I really thought that if our university doesn't have as far as diversity and inclusion it comes apart, is developing a campus community respect, kind of like a respect compact, if you will, because I kind of reflected back on my position description. And when I wrote my position description, one of the main kind of features of my position, for example, was to create a supportive, inclusive, and diverse environment that's welcoming to all. And I think one of the more successful ways to do this is by creating a kind of campus respect compact, because the policy doesn't always take care of those things. And if you are kind of enforcing this campus respect compact, even if you have students that want to share their beliefs and share their ideas, and students understand that there is this kind of campus-wide respect, they'll do those things hopefully in a way that is respectful to all students, all faculty, all staff, but still do it in a way that gets their opinion and their beliefs out there. So after reading Chapter 8, that was the one thing that probably stood out to me the most, is understanding that policy only goes so far. Students have a way of expressing their opinions and their beliefs, and so it's up to us as administrators of the university to kind of take it one step further and really create that campus respect. So in my particular role, I found that to be the most important feature from those particular chapters. That was a lot. Hopefully that was informative for you all. Thanks for listening, and look forward to discussing this a little bit more in class this week.